Hey everybody, hope everybody's doing well. Hope you can hear my loud ass wind chimes in the background, setting the mood, so to speak. Today I'm going to do a little mini episode of this podcast. We'll see how mini of an episode it is because once I get talking about some of these things, it's hard for me to really stop. I'm sure you could tell, but I wanted to do it on this new season of Unsolved Mysteries. Really a reboot. Now, I wouldn't call it a new season, although I've seen some people call it like season 15 or whatever. This is produced by Netflix, and I want to say it came out right at the beginning of July. There is a new season that just came out like 2 days ago or something like that, and they have 6 episodes apiece. So, Unsolved Mysteries is a pretty classic show. I love it. I'm sure a lot of you love it. Robert Stack was the host and the narrator. He was perfect for the role. He had that commanding, almost eerie sort of presence, but calm at the same time. Very well spoken. Great host and narrator. There was a sort of reboot, kind of, with Dennis Farina, which wasn't as good. They reused a lot of episodes and stuff, but we all think of the Robert Stack one. It had the very creepy theme song that we all love, and it had the old school reenactments that could often lend themselves to creepy character. And they just talked about a lot of disturbing things, and the fact that a lot of these were unsolved. A lot of them end up being solved through updates and things like that, but it just had an extremely creepy vibe to it. Very good. So I thought that this would be pretty appropriate to talk about for Halloween. But this new one is very different in style, so I don't even know if it would be that Halloween appropriate because it's really just a true crime show. But I really wanted to talk about it regardless because, being a huge fan, I had to say something about it. So I'm going to go a little bit quicker than I usually would and not be super descriptive on each episode. I'll kind of just give you a little summation and then tell you how I kind of felt about it. But before we do that, I have to talk about the stylistic changes of this. When this came out, it got a pretty mixed reception, and it might have even been leaning towards the negative side because there is no host anymore. There's no narration or anything like that. Robert Stack has been dead for a long time, but they could have, recast him, gotten a different narrator or host. I do know that I'm sure a lot of people would say, and I did see this a lot, he's irreplaceable. You could never replace him. Nobody would be able to do it as good as him. And I have to say, in my opinion, as iconic of a figure as Robert Stack is in this show, I think that he could have, using the term replaced sounds so pejorative, but I think they could have gotten someone else. I think if they were really delicate and smart about it and they really picked the person best for the job, they could have got somebody else to do it. I think there are plenty of people that could have done a great job at this and that probably would have loved doing it. And one thing they could have probably done is maybe toned back a little bit of the presence of the narrator, kept it just for like interconnecting things, just to keep the story flowing for us viewers. I think they probably could have done that, but they decided not to, and I think it suffers immensely because of it, because it's just this kind of stuff, it's so ingrained in our brain being the way that it is that I think it just needs a narrator to tie things together. Also, there are no more reenactments, which I think, again, is a huge detriment to this version of the show. The reenactments were creepy. It was the low-budget style of shooting that they did that added to the charm of the show. And I think that not having that is a huge detriment to the show. It made it what it was. Now, of course, I also kind of fear that they would have made it too, I don't know, realistic almost or something. These are things they could have screwed up. They could have screwed up the reenactment video things and made this worse for the wearer, but I think it needed that for sure. And the other thing that this doesn't have is, segmented stories. So each story that we deal with is one entire episode, and the episodes are pretty long. They're actually about 60 minutes. So it suffers from a lot of different things. It's missing a great narrator and host. It's missing the creepy vibe. I mean, some of the things are creepy in this, but it's just missing that overall macabre sort of feeling, that very eerie sensibility that the original has. I don't even know if there's music. If there is, it was totally unnoticeable to me. It didn't stick out whatsoever. No creepy music, and being the episodes being as long as they are, it almost feels like some of them are very artificially extended. And that's one of the things is, these are unsolved mysteries. We don't know what happened, unfortunately. So in a lot of these episodes, some of them I liked a lot. I'll get into it, but when you start getting invested in the episode and it starts going on and on for like an hour, you get to the end and I almost forgot a couple times, oh yeah, this is Unsolved Mysteries, so there is no satisfying sort of conclusion. You're just kind of left scratching your head at the end, and that's it. And I think that, if they were to make these shorter like they used to, it would break that up. And I also preferred in the original, sometimes they'd show a story, but sometimes they'd show a story and then they'd come to another one and then they'd come back to it. So this kind of was long in the tooth, and with all those issues with it, it really just comes, like many people have said, as just feeling like another Dateline show. It's just another true crime show. There's not really anything special about it. I don't know what they were thinking. I really don't. I don't know if they thought that if they tried to do the Unsolved Mysteries thing, that people would complain and nitpick every single move, which I'm sure would be the case, but not adding anything that makes Unsolved Mysteries really into this other than them being unsolved mysteries. And I'm saying this word a lot, but it makes it almost seem like, well, why did you even call it Unsolved Mysteries? Why did it almost feels like they were trying to capitalize on the fame of that. So really, really weird sort of ideas that they went with here. It's very frustrating. It's very bizarre. I have no clue what they were thinking when they did this. I don't get it. I just don't understand it. A lot of the episodes I would be watching and I'd say, this is pretty good, but you know what would make it better? If it was like Unsolved Mysteries. It's just, I don't understand it. So, pretty negative. I mean, really, that was an immensely frustrating thing for me watching this. I could not grasp it. Ugh. Oy vey. All right, well, let's get on to the episodes, because some of them make up for that horrendous decision making that they've made. The first episode is called Mystery on the Rooftop, and I'm going to read like the little blurbs. It says, the strange death of a 32-year-old writer and videographer, Ray Riviera, in Baltimore is explored. This one was one of the most interesting ones to me. It dealt with this guy who, his wife, and by the way, these stories are told through interviews. That's how they do it. Some of the interviews are interesting. Some of them are just not very interesting. That's what the whole episode hinges on being successful, is the story and how it's presented, because they don't have anything else really to do. But this one, this guy Ray, he was in his house and his wife was away and they had a friend in the house, and she heard him kind of get a phone call and say like, oh, and then he ran out, and then they didn't see him for a couple days, and then they found that his body was first they found his car parked somewhere, which they thought was really strange. If I remember, the keys were in the car, so really strange circumstances here. And then they eventually, this hotel in the Baltimore area, they kind of open up this room in the hotel, like a rec room. I think they, smelled a corpse, really. And when they opened the room, Ray's body was pretty badly decomposed in there, and there was a hole in the ceiling that they found. And they get into the forensics of it, and they kind of go up to the top of the hotel and look down, and they see that there's like another roof, like 40, 50 feet down or something, that he clearly fell through. They find like his cell phone and his sandals and stuff. And it's just a really bizarre thing, because they can't quite figure out how this happened. And the police department pretty much immediately says it's a suicide, but then they look into it and they say, it really can't be a suicide. For him to get up on that ledge, for one, he would have either had to have known exactly how to get up there, because it's very labyrinthian to get up to the top of the roof, which is unlikely because it would be locked, or someone led him up there, which is the more likely case, which is pretty chilling. That I really liked. I mean, now I say and you got to, disclaimer, these are real people that have died, so it's, sad, and it's nothing to like, revel in the enjoyment of it, but this is presented to us for our enjoyment and education, as I always say, so take that as you will. So when I say these things, don't think I'm being insensitive, but that was simply entertaining. It was chilling that he had to have been led up there, which is really scary to think about, that somebody led you to what you know would be your death. And then when they get up there, it's like the ledge is so small. There's no way he wouldn't have been able. He would have had to like trapeze walk or tightrope walk up there or something very strange. And then they find that he has this like very weird, very cryptic sort of like manifest taped under his desk that he wrote, that has all sorts of weird things, stream of consciousness writing in it, like along the lines of like the Masonics, or like the Freemasons, like, so someone was thinking, was he being initiated, and something went wrong. And then the other weird thing, they found who made the phone call, or where the phone call made from. It was from the building that his friend owns, his friend's business, that they like moved out there to for his friend. And they were like, okay, there's a huge connection there. But the guy that owned the business, his friend, ordered a gag order on everyone in the building the day that they found his body. Immensely suspicious, right? And his friend would like never return requests for comment. So I think it's pretty clear that his friend had something to do with it. Something bad happened. But really interesting. The cop that was on the case, the detective that was pretty sure it was not a suicide by any means, was taken off the case and brought to another one, and they just said it was a suicide. So that one was really interesting. I really liked it. And that this is where the story's kind of made up for the very frustrating fact that this was basically just a Dateline episode and not Unsolved Mysteries. That was one of my favorites. It was my second favorite one, I would say. Yeah, this one, I'm talking a little more about the ones I like than the ones I don't, because the ones that I don't like, I have barely anything to say. The next one is called 13 Minutes. And I have a 38-year-old hair salon owner, Patrice Endres, vanishes into in a 13-minute window of time, only for there to be a development in the case 600 days later. This one was also very good. It was very interesting. It was spooky. It was very uncomfortable feeling. It just had a very scary vibe throughout. This woman, Patrice, who was the hair dresser, she owned the salon, and you see a lot of interviews from her son, whose name I think was Pistol. He was a character. He had a lot of interesting things to say. And yeah, she just disappeared. They had a phone call that was placed to her. Sorry, you have to excuse me a minute. She had a phone call that was placed. Sorry. Oh my goodness, the wind is is absolutely insane. Sorry about that. Kind of like spooked me. There was a phone call placed to her salon, and some eyewitnesses also saw her talking outside with some people in a car. And there were some conflicting eyewitness responses and things, but they were able to use these things to basically determine that there was like a 13-minute window of time where she kind of disappeared. Very weird. A lot of people that have watched this one suspect that her husband had something to do with it. They've said that there's like no evidence to support that, so who knows? But if you haven't seen this one and you watch it, or if you have, you're going to agree with me, I'm sure, that the husband is probably the most suspicious person I've ever seen on camera. He is a weirdo. The day that she basically goes missing, he locks his son out of the house, and he's just like very weird, sheepishly on camera, like, oh, I just didn't want him there. I didn't want him there. Just locks him out of the house. He hates him, and it's clear that he was really jealous. They do later find her body a lot longer, like 600 days later, and it's like in a forest, kind of near a church. Very strange. Her husband gets control over her remains, and he kind of like walks around with her ashes. And it's fucking weird. I think he has her skull, actually, and he kisses the skull at some point. It's one of the fucking weirdest things I've ever seen. That dude is super suspicious. Sounds super guilty. That was weird. Real interesting one. Wasn't quite as gripping to me as the first one, but it had more of a creepy vibe to it. The third one is called House of Terror. It's all in French. It's dealing with something in French, so you will have to read subtitles. That doesn't bother me, but I know a lot of people don't like reading subtitles. This one wasn't as good to me. It was really disturbing, the subject matter. There's a French family The guy's name is Alonzo Brooks, and his family basically all goes missing. They're not returning their mail or anything like that, and Alonzo's disappeared. They go under the porch and they find the family killed, buried under the porch, except Alonzo, the father, is gone. So it's pretty well suspected that Alonzo is the guy that killed his family, and they can't seem to find him. And it's just really dealing with them kind of doing a manhunt searching for him, but they've never seemed to find him. I think they mentioned that he might have went into the mountains or something like that and perhaps perished, but you never figure out what happens. The subject matter is really grim. The thing I didn't like about this one so much was that it has never been confirmed that he's the killer, although he seems obviously like the most likely suspect. So you really kind of know who the killer is of these people throughout this whole episode. So really what we're dealing with most of the episode is just trying to find him and things like that. But we know that that doesn't happen. So this one didn't have that kind of grit, that grip, so to speak, that I like. The next one was called No Ride Home. Oh, and I'm sorry, it was not Alonzo Brooks. I was reading ahead. My apologies. That was for the next one. It was the Dupont de Ligonnès family. It was Xavier Dupont. I'm really sorry. I read ahead. That Alonzo Brooks is not a French-sounding name at all. Sorry about that. But it was the Dupont family. Yeah, I didn't really care for that one that much. The next one is Alonzo Brooks' No Ride Home, where he basically goes missing after a party with friends. He goes to a party with his friends in a predominantly white neighborhood. He's a black kid. A place known for racism, things like that, all that kind of tension. And his friends kind of leave him at the party, and they later find him dead. This one was not that great to me. I don't know. It just wasn't very gripping. It wasn't very sensational. It seemed pretty cut and dry. They of course never found the killer, but it really just seemed like he got left at a party. He got in an argument with a racist guy there, and they probably killed him and dumped his body. One kind of thing that was pretty interesting and kind of creepy was that they later found his body like in a river or a stream or something, and they had kind of said that they didn't see it the first time when they were looking, so they kind of said they think that the people that killed him later placed his body there, which is a really creepy thing to think about, that they were holding his body somewhere and then they transported it. That kind of gave me the shivers, but other than that, this one wasn't really good. The next one is Berkshire's UFO. Nothing to say about this one. I'm sorry. I don't like UFO stories at all. They do not interest me whatsoever. I don't like them in the original Unsolved Mysteries. I don't like TV specials on UFOs. It is something that is intensely boring for me. I just don't like that. I have nothing to say about this one. I did not like it at all. Not to say that it was like a piece of garbage, because you might like the UFO stuff. I always like the ghost stories on Unsolved Mysteries, even though they're really goofy, obviously, and everything like that, but they were often done in a really creepy way. But this one was just not for me at all, man. The next one is called Missing Witness. This is the last one. This one was my second favorite. It was extremely interesting to me. It was about a woman named Lena Chaplin who disappeared because her mom, essentially, they talk about her mom growing up with all these kids she has. Her mom would marry and then divorce, marry the next guy, move in with the next guy, the rotating fathers kind of deal. One of those really shitty moms who is, not looking out with the best interests of her children in mind, that sort of thing, unfortunately. And she ends up meeting a guy, and he kind of goes missing. Actually, she marries a guy, they break up, she gets together with his brother, I think, and then it's his brother that goes missing. Her second or third, whoever knows how many husband. Isn't that that's kind of strange that she married his brother? Like, just weird, right? He goes missing, though. And a lot of things happen. They start to suspect that her mom obviously killed him. But then one of the daughters, I guess Lena, the girl in question that has disappeared, has learned that she kind of knows that her mom did it. I think she sees her mom like cleaning blood off the floor one day or something, and then I think it's later said that she told her in confidence that she did actually kill him and stuff. And that she had her help him move the body or something along those lines. She knew what happened, and she knew she was not supposed to know that, of course. There's my little cat. And one of her sisters kind of tells her mom, like, confronts her, and tells her, hey, man, I know you did this and I'm not going to stand for this shit. I can't take it anymore, because her mom is not a good woman. Her mom and her new, shiny new boyfriend put her in a car. Now, we don't know this happened for sure. This is speculation, but this is what the girl said happened. And given everything we've been told, that more than likely happened. She puts her in a car with the boyfriend, drives her without saying a word. They take her out into the woods, tell her to get out of the car, and the boyfriend points a gun at her to kill her because she's going to fess. Isn't that disgusting? I mean, if that happened, that is just the most vile woman I can think of. What kind of sick fucker does that to their kid? I mean, really, that was like frustrating. I couldn't believe that. But there are people out there like that. There are people that are that vile of heart that would do that to their kids because they're sociopaths. They don't care. And, she gets scared. She runs to her mom and says, please don't hurt me. And then her mom kind of calls him off. Crazy, right? Now, Lena has a child. She has a young son. And there was a lot of creepy, weird stuff, like she wanted, the mother wanted her son as her own, basically really weird stuff, like was having her call her mom instead of grandma, just creepy, weird shit. And Lena decides to, there's a, I think what happens, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a couple months since I've seen this, but they have a court case, I think, and she ends up being exonerated or whatever, but then they do a civil suit, and, you know what was it? Oh, I think what happened, I'm getting a little confused here, but they were probably gonna pin her because Lena was gonna testify in court that she saw her mother doing this, and that was probably in this civil suit gonna nail her for this crime. And then like the day after this happens, or before it's supposed to happen, Lena just disappears. Like, great timing. And then her mom kind of tells her kids, like, oh, she just ran off to Florida or whatever to meet up with a boyfriend or something. And they were just kind of like, she would never ever do that. That's not like her. She would never do something like that. So it's pretty obvious that, her mom killed her. And that's really the end. We get to see the struggles that the family has gone through with this. They take like the detectives to the place where they think that she was buried on the land, because there was this well there that is no longer there, and they thought maybe she put her in there. And they had the metal detectors out. They couldn't find anything. So that was an extremely interesting episode. Again, they're hour-long episodes, so when you get to the end, you're waiting for this big climax. And there really isn't one. It's sad because they're unsolved mysteries. But this one was very interesting to me personally. The most fucked up thing about this case, which is I couldn't believe, is the mom, the evil mother, gets custody of the kid. And they're not allowed to see the kid, I don't think, and now he's probably brainwashed. He calls that woman his mom. Insane. Crazy. That was a crazy one. So, yeah, these were my thoughts on each of the episodes of Season 1 of Unsolved Mysteries, the reboot. As you can see and hear, I really enjoyed a couple. I thought some of them were about 50-50, right? They were very good true crime episodes. And for what they were, I actually enjoyed them. I know this got a kind of a negative reception, but I didn't quite hate it as much as others. I thought it was interesting subject material, and at times it was very chilling, some of the stuff that was going on. But then as soon as the thought of Unsolved Mysteries pops into my head, I get frustrated. It's just like, you could have elevated these, even if you put a little bit, even if they put a little bit of that magic touch into this, it would have been that much better. But they didn't. And that was frustrating. But I can't say I'm not looking forward to the new season, because I'm sure there's going to be at least 1 or 2 episodes that I find quite interesting. I'm a fan of true crime. I'm probably going to be frustrated again, but whatever. This new season's already out, like I said, and there's 6 more episodes. I looked at like a little bit of the descriptions of the episodes, and they look pretty interesting. So if anything, it's an interesting true crime show, but it's nothing special. I'm still looking forward to watching the new one, though. Let me know what your thoughts are on this one. Kind of a hard one to talk about, right? It's kind of a 50-50 kind of thing for me, at least. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this little podcast. I guess it's not too little; it's 25 minutes. But anyways, keep scared and have a great day, everyone. Peace out.